Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I am recording this on June 25th. Thank you for joining. Please help support the work that I do by being a paid member to my Patreon channel or Substack channel. You can follow me on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. All these videos are for free, so please help support the work that I do. You can also donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. We're going to go over the news and the markets, and I'm going to tell you how to improve your health and wellness. So with that, let's go over the markets. All right, the markets are open as of this recording, and the S&P 500 is at 7,329. I still have a year-end target of 7,800. Market was rallying early in the session and started to drift down. So right now it's at 7,327. VIX did go up a little bit. It's just below 20. Euro is stable at 113, and the Japanese yen is at 161.72. Over the last couple trading sessions, the dollar has been gaining some strength. Bitcoin has crashed. It's trading at 58,000. Oil is trading at $70.45 a barrel. It traded in last night as low as 68.9. Now there's a resistance level at about 68.76. So we're in this trading range that I was talking about before, where you're going to be trading at around 60, 68, 69 to about maybe 74. So we may be drifting up with oil at the moment. Natural gas is trading at 3.28. Now, we should start seeing that drift down closer to 3. So pay attention to that. What I want to do is I want to go over some of the breaking news that has been popping up. Some of the big media has been complaining about Mondani and the Democratic Socialists. I did a little bit of a spiel yesterday about it. Now let's listen to Fox Business about national emergency. This is about him not signing the, I think it's called the Housing Act.
We currently offer 2 investment opportunities: a private placement bond offer.
Welcome back. Confusion on Capitol Hill. President Trump canceled the signing ceremony for the 21st Century Road to the Housing Act yesterday. The president posted on Truth Social this: today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. The Save America Act passed out of the House back in February, but Senate Majority Leader John Thune told me and has repeatedly said he does not have the votes to pass the measure in the Senate. Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis, meanwhile, joined me yesterday, who voiced a different tone. Watch this.
If the president wants to talk about the Save America Act, he's aware, because of Senator Thune's remarks, that we don't have the votes to pass the full spectrum of ideas that fall under the Save America Act. But we probably do have the votes to get certain portions of it passed. So we need to smartly break up Save America Act and get those components that we can get passed that will make a difference enacted.
So what would make a big difference? I mean, would you expect that having ID to vote and proving your citizenship will fly going into the midterms? Do you think you could pass something like that?
Yes, I think that we could pass something like that.
Joining me now is Montana Congressman Troy Downing. He sits on the Financial Services Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for
Good
being
to see you.
here.
Good morning.
So clearly, President Trump is digging in here on the Save America Act. Could it be passed in some other way, as you just heard from the senator?
Well, I think we're all frustrated. The administration is frustrated. The American people are frustrated. I mean, this is an issue that has very broad support amongst constituents. You've seen, upward of 70% think that you should have to prove that you're a citizen to vote. We've got, or at least, I've seen as high as 85% that have this. So clearly this is, political theater here because the people want it. And we have passed this, over multiple times in the House. And it is a little frustrating. I understand the president's frustration, but I think, as you pointed out, Maria, I think the biggest thing here is folks want to make sure that anybody who is allowed to vote in American elections can, and anybody who's not allowed cannot, that we foreclose that. It's not rocket science. And for me personally, I'm hoping that we can get at least that main crux of that through. I know 100% we can get it through the House. We've done that over and over and over again. And again, I understand the president's frustration. We're all frustrated to try to get this to the Senate. And, they've got their own wrangling, and Leader Thune has his own wrangling to do in his chamber. And I hope that quickly he does what needs to be done to get this passed so that we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, is he doing it, though? Is he doing the wrangling? I mean, the Speaker, Mike Johnson, in the House said that he will push parts of the Save America Act through a third reconciliation package. But the president said last night he's not open to a compromise measure on it, Congressman. I know that the House was passing this legislation as a standalone measure before, as you just mentioned. A reconciliation package is what Mike Johnson's talking about. But once that package gets to the Senate, is there enough time to get the support to get it to the president's desk?
Just at a 50,000-foot level, voters that supported the Republican Party spent a lot of effort in 2024 to get them in power at the legislative level and at the executive level. And it seems to me that the Republican Party has not delivered to the American public, and especially the voters that support the Republican Party, on key issues to help middle-class America. Now, the Housing Act is supposed to help, but also, well, wait a minute here. We also have problems with immigration, getting them out, making sure that our elections are above board and legitimate. What about making things a little bit easier in terms of students that have college debt, helping them? What about the transition of labor to a world of AI? The Republican Party seems, the perception, and I think the reality, seems to have dropped the ball in providing for the American public. Now, some people would say, well, what about the tax cuts? The big, beautiful bill and the tax cuts. That was all eaten away by pumping gas in your car because of the fiasco that we had in the Middle East. We didn't really win the Middle East at all. We didn't win Iraq. We didn't win Afghanistan. We didn't win Iran. So Republican Party needs to step up to the plate and help the middle class. Or what will happen is many people, especially the young, will be voting in Democratic Socialists. And this is where the Republican Party is failing. I want them to succeed. I support the Republican Party. But the thing is that they're not delivering to middle-class America like they said they would because of too much infighting, too much, the standard philosophy, the neocons pushing the country in a certain direction, the lobbying group that only wants to support big tech. I find that this administration and the Republican Party is more concerned about crypto mining, AI, and how their personal wealth will increase in this new technology versus what will help the American people where they're at right now. And this is the reason why people are gravitating to the Democratic Socialists. Now, the Democratic Socialists are wrong. They're just flat out wrong. My main issue here is that the Republican Party has not delivered to the American public, especially the ones that supported them, so they can get power in the legislative branch and the executive branch during the 2024 election. Thune seems like he doesn't even want to play ball and help in the American public. They're all worried about, will they get reelected? Well, the problem that they had wasn't the reason why they're not going to be reelected isn't because of the war on Iran or the fiasco that we had. It was that they didn't deliver when they had power. And the Republican Party has a tendency to do this. Now, what's scary is that the Democratic Party may win the legislative branch. Now, their legislation is just going to get bounced after the midterm. Trump won't sign it, right? I'd be shocked if he signs it. But this sets in motion for the general election. And if the Democratic Party wins the legislative branch and the White House, then you're talking about socialistic programs that are going to erode the health of our economy in the long term. Not only that, their policies are going to erode the foundation of our constitutional republic, which is the Enlightenment. They're going to erode the Enlightenment and push this postmodern agenda. So we're going to be worse off. It's not because Republicans don't have good policies. It's Republicans can't get their act together and get the job done and over the finishing line. And I blame Johnson for this, and I blame Thune. They're not for the sad thing is the Republican Party has the right policies to move the country forward, but yet they fail to deliver to the middle class America, even though they can do it. The problem comes in is that the Democratic Party, they quote want to help the middle class America. They push policies forward, but their policies make things worse. So you have a party that makes things worse, and you have a party that has ideas that can't get to the finishing line because they're inept. It's almost as if the Republican Party is less organized, but have good ideas, while the Democratic Party have bad ideas and are more organized.
Well, we certainly hope so. And there's a lot of effort, especially on the House side, to try to get a reconciliation bill through. There's so much, policy that we still need to and still want to get done in this Congress. And so that's one of the paths. And, frankly, I think if you just keep putting this up for votes and show that the Democrats are contrary to their constituents on this issue, that's a very important issue to so many Americans. Maybe we can get something to move there. But I completely support Speaker Johnson's attempt to find another vehicle to get this done. And, my personal opinion is if we can get the ball down the field in the right direction, that's a win. If we have to piecemeal it, if we have to put it into a reconciliation bill, we need to get some closure on this issue because it is a very big issue for not just here in DC, but for the people who sent us here.
Well, it doesn't matter what the president comes up with. The Democrats are going to try to upend his agenda. I mean, there's an upcoming October 1st deadline now for government funding after all that you've been through with these shutdowns. This past fall was the longest full government shutdown in history. The Department of Homeland Security went without funding for 76 days. And Florida Senator Rick Scott was with me here last week, and he said he would not be surprised to see it all happen again right before the midterms. Watch this.
The Democrats are going to shut down government October 1. We have to, whether we fund it through reconciliation or through a continuing resolution. Remember, everything will get shut down again. This will be the fourth time in 2 years by the Democrats. So we've got to figure out how to fund the government. Like just how do we fund ICE and CBP through reconciliation? So we were going to have to do something. Our government will be shut down because the Democrats think it's in their best interest to win in November.
So you think we're seeing another government shutdown on the horizon before the midterms then?
Absolutely. October 1, government will shut down unless the Republicans would come together and fund government through a continuing resolution, through reconciliation, something. And we need to get started on it now.
Congressman, what do you think? Your reaction? You agree with that?
You know, I think we're all tired of this political theater.
Yeah.
And we've seen the other side of the aisle, trying to throw this at us again and again. And everybody comes up with who wins in a shutdown. Nobody wins in a shutdown. But I will tell you that at least my side of the aisle and with the administration, we have tools to make sure that we can still do those basic services. And we've had, as the good senator was talking about, we have tools with reconciliation, with CRs, with moving funds around temporarily. But all of us want to get back to legislating. We want to get back to regular order. And I was so happy to see us get so far down that path last cycle when we got all 12 of the appropriations bills through in the House. And unfortunately, that 12th one got stuck up in the Senate. We had that first shutdown. But this is political theater. And I think that the senator was right that the other side is going to try to use this to, create an adverse midterm election for us. And we just need to make sure that we're going to stand up for the American people, do everything we can, use the tools at our disposal to make sure that we lessen that effect on the American people as much as we can.
All right, we'll be watching all of that, Congressman. Good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the magnesium and zinc. Magnesium and zinc will help to boost up your immune system and help with brain function. Vitamin C and magnesium helps with the immune system and brain function. Also, your skin. This cross-links with collagen. If you drink filtered water, the vitamin C and the collagen will cross-link and improve your dermal layer. So stack it with the collagen, but you get added benefit. It helps with brain function and it helps with the immune system. Probiotics, you get it in veggie cap form or the powdered form. Good probiotic is going to help you to absorb your nutrients, bring down inflammation, strengthen the gut, improve your immune system, also improve your brain function. It helps you to sleep. You'll have better cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. They'll help to detoxify your central nervous system and consolidate memory. Super important. Also, your metabolism will improve. So please go to my store and get the probiotics. Good health starts at the gut. And vitamin D3, it's a cofactor for gene expression, helps to get rid of cells that are infected, helps to get the cells to go into apoptosis if they're infected. And vitamin D3 helps the cardiovascular system and bone density. Please take it every day. And because we're in the allergy seasons and you're cleaning around the home, please make sure you get the structural needle silver lozenges. You can get it in orange splash or in Manuka honey. But make sure you have some available. You never know when you need it. And when you're cleaning around the home, in the garage, in the basement, in the yard, doing gardening, make sure you take it to mitigate any allergen. It helps to neutralize, but you can also use it during the cold season. So please go to my store, get a few bags of the very high quality structural needle silver lozenges. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg about some tech. I think they're talking about Microsoft, maybe.
Also, that's good stuff.
This Independence Day, folks, join Bloomberg this weekend for a special live show from the intrepid David Gura, Christina Ruffini, and Lisa Mateo. Will be celebrating America's 250th birthday all morning on the deck of the Intrepid, right on the Hudson River. Watch and listen live on Bloomberg Television.
Let's listen to this lazy and weak statement. Congressman torches Senate as lazy and weak. I'll tell you, Thune, I'm not happy with him as the leader of the Senate. I think
$5. That's how much I'm hoping you'll contribute to our campaign to take back Texas. $5 to defeat.
Welcome back. Confusion on Capitol Hill. President Trump abruptly canceling the signing ceremony for the 21st Century Road to the Housing Act yesterday. The president posted on Truth Social afterwards saying this: today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. The Save America Act passed out of the House back in February, but Senate Majority Leader John Thune told me and has repeatedly said he does not have the votes to pass the measure in the Senate. Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis, meanwhile, joined me yesterday with a different tone. Watch this.
If the president wants to talk about the Save America Act, he's aware, because of Senator Thune's remarks, that we don't have the votes to pass the full spectrum of ideas that fall under the Save America Act. But we probably do have the votes to get certain portions of it passed. So we need to smartly break up Save America Act and get those components that we can get passed that will make a difference enacted.
So what would make a big difference? I mean, would you expect that having ID to vote and proving your citizenship will fly going into the midterms? Do you think you could pass something like that?
Yes, I think that we could pass something like that.
Joining me now is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. He is also sitting on the Financial Services Committee. Congressman, great to see you this morning. Welcome back. And I want to get your take about this because I think President Trump met with the Senate yesterday and said he's not interested in changing the Save America Act. He doesn't want to take anything out of the Save America Act. But what about what Cynthia Lummis was just saying? If the president's priority is getting citizenship proof to vote, do you think there are areas of the Save America Act that can pass in other vehicles? How do you see this playing out?
Well, first, is going to be back with you, Maria. Look, let me be very blunt. I'm sick of the U.S. Senate. Look, Cynthia Lummis is an awesome lady. I like her. There's some very good members over in the U.S. Senate, but that body is lazy. They don't do any work. Ideas go over there and they languish and they sit. The members of the Senate don't even debate these issues. This is why members like myself support the president in ending the Senate filibuster, because the Senate filibuster does not lead to compromise and debate. It only leads to obstruction from the Democratic left. Let's be very clear. If the Democrats actually cared about securing our elections, the Save America Act would have passed months ago, but they don't. 80% of the American people want to actually have voter ID and protections to make sure that only Americans are voting in our elections, because it's common sense. So now that the Senate's getting pressure on them, now they're finally saying, oh, well, we can do a piece here or a piece here. They haven't done anything. And that's the problem. That's what's frustrated so many members in the House when it comes to working with the Senate to get common sense legislation through Capitol Hill into the president's desk for signature. And so, look, if they're going to start doing just voter ID or whatever, okay, fine. But they got to do something over there. Right now, the Senate just wastes time. They don't pick up these issues. They wait till the last minute to throw some Hail Mary back at the House, and then they expect the House to just carry their water just to get the issue off everybody's plate. It's sick, it's gross, it's disgusting, it's weak. I'm sick of it. My House colleagues are sick of it. The American people need to understand that the U.S. Senate is the reason why we are not tackling some of the major issues facing this nation.
Yeah, but I mean, House Speaker Mike Johnson says that he's going to be pushing parts of the Save America Act through a third reconciliation package. The president said he's not open to a compromise measure, but the House was already able to pass this. You're right. I mean, you passed it. You and your colleagues passed it as a standalone legislation measure. Is the reconciliation package really realistic? I mean, if Mike Johnson gets it through in the House, which would be great, which you've done before, again, it faces the same fate in the Senate, doesn't it?
Well, it's going to be complicated, just to be straight with you. The Senate parliamentarian is going to have a major hand in what's allowed to go through the bird bath, is what we call it up here, in Reconciliation 3.0. The other things that need to be in that bill, obviously, the president wants matters for national defense. In Florida, we had major crop losses from a freeze back in February. Florida needs about 3.5 billion in crop relief because our farmers in the great state of Florida feed half the country, especially in cold months. We have major crop losses. We need to see that too. But when you're talking about putting Save America Act in, the question is the Senate parliamentarian going to let some of the provisions through? I hope that the parliamentarian would do that, but we don't know. That's, again, a question for the United States Senate and Leader Thune. This is where Senate procedure, quite frankly, is stopping the United States and stopping this government from being able to be responsive to key critical issues like the Save America Act.
So a big agenda for the Republicans ahead of the midterms. What do you think gets done?
To be honest, I think.
So I was throwing a cowgirl-themed bachelorette party, which naturally required sequin cowboy hats for all 10 guests. But what?
To be honest, I think the housing bill that passed, and we'll do spending bills. We'll get that stuff through. We need to do everything we can to codify President Trump's border security measures. Again, we could pass that out of the House, but our Senate Democrats going to finally agree and allow for an up or down vote on the Senate floor that Donald Trump's border security measures have been in the best interest of the United States of America. The answer is clearly yes, but you have Senate Democrats who will refuse to end cloture so we can get an up or down vote on the floor of the House. So energy policy, Maria, there's so many things that need to get done, but you have Senate Democrats who will not give the 60 votes just to end debate. And it's not like they're debating over there. They sit in their offices and they hide from the debate. They're not on the Senate floor discussing these matters. That's why I think the talking filibuster or holding the floor is what the Senate should be moving towards. Because if you have a U.S. Senator, a Mazie Hirono, a Markey, an Elizabeth Warren, a Bernie Sanders, if they feel so strongly about an issue, then debate it on the Senate floor and hold the floor and don't yield it until you get changes. But they don't want to do that.
What about the Clarity Act? I mean, you're on financial services. It passed out of the House last year. It's been held up in the Senate. Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis shared an update with us yesterday because I asked her about this fight between the banks and the crypto companies, and Jamie Dimon's comments to me saying he's going to fight the Clarity Act because he doesn't think it's fair. Watch this. The House passed Clarity almost a year ago. What is holding this up in the Senate?
We've been negotiating on the Clarity Act hardcore since last Labor Day. And it's been an arduous process. As you know, the major monkey wrench was thrown in it when the Genius Act revisions that the banks wanted became a huge issue for us. And I'm really proud of Senator Also Brooks and Senator Tillis for working with the banks to find that compromise. We're still working a little bit on DeFi. We're working on that's illicit finance. We're working a little bit on ethics, but we've been working through thousands of hours in negotiating, thousands. And we're finally to the point where we're going to put out a text over the July 4th and give people one last really thorough look at the bill. And then we're moving in July.
Moving in July, Congressman, your thoughts? Will the Senate finally get this one done?
Maybe. We'll see. Look, the issues that she talked about, I guess a couple of senators are doing these heavy negotiations on. We already took care of those matters in House Financial Services last year. And so the Clarity Act, the legislation is sound. Members of the House moved that product through, but now the Senate decides that they want to have their own rewrite to the bill. We'll see what they put out. But like I said at the top, Maria, so many of these issues go over to the United States Senate and then they just languish forever, as opposed to just finding a way to get it done. And I'm not trying to end the way the Senate deliberates issues. I think having deliberative process is what makes our nation work. You don't want Congress, you don't want Washington, D.C. to be a runaway freight train. But what we're seeing up here on Capitol Hill is, quite frankly, a United States Senate that just does not work. And it's stopping common sense things like the Clarity Act from moving forward.
Yeah. What about these far left candidates? Three far left congressional candidates endorsed by Mayor Zoran Mamdani won the primary elections on Tuesday in New York, as you know. Many Republicans now saying this is proof of the far left shift in the Democrat Party, particularly in New York. That's one reason so many people have left New York and gone to Florida. The New York Times has an op-ed on the push for a blue wave in Florida right now, Congressman. Federal data shows more than 71,000 people moved from New York to Florida in 2023. Many move out because of the bad policies. rates, high taxes, against police. Do you think those residents want a blue wave in Florida?
No, I don't. Actually, the people who have come to Florida, they've escaped the nightmare that is New York, that is Illinois, that is California, and they're registering as Republicans, they're registering as MPAs. But what they're really buying into, Maria, is the Florida way of life. They want the Florida dream for themselves. They're not trying to change that to have it look like what's going on up in New York, because it's a true tragedy for our system where you have Democrats, socialists, because back in the day, they knew they couldn't run as communists. They wouldn't get support. So they changed their name to Democrat Socialists. And now they're winning elections up in New York and quite frankly, destroying that city. That city, and I'm a former New Yorker, born and raised, but it's really tragic to see what's happening politically to the city of New York. And that's why so many New Yorkers have fled to Florida, because they understand that Florida is a state based upon common sense, conservative governance, low taxes, low regulation. We just do it the right way. And you're seeing people move to our state. This is the fundamental principle that Milton Friedman talked about, that the movement of feet is how you judge public policy. And it's without a shadow of a doubt that people are moving to Florida because we're the best state in the country, thanks to Governor DeSantis and his leadership, and we're not going to stop.
All right, we'll be watching that. And of course, your race for governor.
Bottom line is this: the Senate and the House were given control to the Republican Party during the general election of 2024. And the Republican Party are not delivering to the citizens of the United States, nor to the voters that voted for them. The Senate leader is failing. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the lignans. This will help boost up your immune system and your endocrine system, soak up free radicals, bring down inflammation. That's really important also for your brain function, cardiovascular health. You'll notice that you'll recover quicker after a workout. Ashwagandha root helps to control cortisol levels and blood glucose levels. That will help to improve your immune system and also help with your cardiovascular health. You can stack them together for max benefit and stack it with also the turmeric that will help to soak up free radicals and bring down inflammation. Bringing down inflammation is really important to slow down the aging process and help your brain function. Digestive enzyme complex helps to reduce the load on your pancreas, helps you to digest your foods, allows you to digest those proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. Digestive enzyme complex also has bromelain in it, reduces clot formation. It's really important. Digestive enzyme complex you should be taking every day with your meal, so you're reducing the load on your pancreas. Good night formula helps you to get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep so you can consolidate memory, be well rested, and detoxify your central nervous system. Now, Good Night formula has tryptophan, melatonin, and GABA, and passion flower to allow you to get into those cycles of REM sleep. That's really important. When you do that, your memory is going to improve and you're going to slow down the aging process. You're 40 years of age or older, make sure you take my vitamin B complex. The first 4 B vitamins helps the electron transport chain within the mitochondria to boost up ATP. So you have more energy. Your cellular metabolism will improve. Your tissues will improve. And when your tissues improve, your organ systems improve. In addition, vitamin B12 within this complex will help to protect neurons. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements that I have.
A very tight correlation, perhaps with a week or two lag in between. And so I think that you'll expect that the gasoline price will follow the oil price very closely. And there's no fundamental reason that it shouldn't. So my expectation is that you'll see gasoline prices quickly follow what we've been observing in the oil market.
Rob, what do we know about the damage done to some of the infrastructure in the Middle East from the war, and how that may impact supply coming out of that region?
Yeah, so there has been some reported damage, most notably to the Qatari gas export facility. So I think on the damage side of the equation, there's probably more of a story there to think about the global LNG, liquefied natural gas balance, as opposed to the oil one. Quite interestingly, at the start of this year, we were already in a supply excess situation. And when we look out into the second half and even out to 2027, one thing that perhaps would have been on your radar is that we may actually see rising output from Iran itself, which perhaps exacerbates the supply picture even more. There probably are some lingering questions about, well, how quickly can you get oil pumping and flowing from certain fields in Iraq, perhaps, or places like that. But I think those impacts will be pretty marginal, and unless there is sort of continued geopolitics, maybe a deal can't be reached, straight shuts down again or intermittently does. I think when you look out to 2027 at this stage, you would be sort of seeing an oversupply from a fundamentals perspective, but it all hinges on some of these geopolitical questions.
Reporting that you mentioned Iraq, and Reuters is reporting that Iraq is considering leaving OPEC if the oil producer group does not allow them to significantly increase oil production. How much of a blow would that be to OPEC in the 30 so seconds we have left?
Sure. Well, look, I think we already saw UAE exit OPEC earlier this year. They've signaled they intend to produce more. I think the coalition does seem to be fraying, and it's the cartel's ability to influence prices is clearly sort of they struggle with this idea of the individual countries wanting to maximize output. And so I guess if Iraq was the next shoe to drop in terms of OPEC, that perhaps wouldn't be that surprising at this point. And it lends to that idea that maybe next year we see an oversupply, especially if OPEC can't rein in production.
All right, Rob, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Rob Barnett, Senior Energy and Commodities Analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence, giving us the latest here on the global energy space. Again, WTI crude oil sitting just below $71 a barrel. This is
life moves fast. With Citizens, you and your business are ready for anything.
I'm thinking second location. Great. Let's dive back into your financials.
Make sense of your life with Citizens Business.
So a slate of Mondami-backed progressive sweeping their primary races, but will it spell trouble come November? Democrats say don't read too much into it.
My focus is on winning the House for the Democrats. I'm focusing on making Hakeem Speaker, and that means my focus is on Grayson's village who led to the vote.
We're watching closely two open seat races that House Democratic leadership hasn't gotten involved in.
I never said we're united as a party.
The challenge for us, and I'm optimistic about our prospects, is that we get people who've been elected around the country. We come up with a coherent agenda that's totally focused on helping everyday people be able to pay their bills.
But New York Attorney General Letitia James is striking a different tone, saying, quote, some of the candidates that he has supported are individuals who do not understand the politics of New York City. All of us are a little frustrated with the Democratic Party, but you don't blow it up. Let's bring in New York Post columnist and Fox News contributor Miranda Devine. Okay, so Miranda, I was shocked by this. Letitia James was a big supporter of Mondami, early supporter of him. The fact that there's friction that is going on now, what is happening?
Well, I mean, I think she's absolutely right. The DSA has decided that it's going to jettison any deals that they might have had with those moderate or establishment Democrats who just tried to save their own skins. The leader of the Hispanic caucus was one of the first to endorse Mamdani, and Mamdani endorsed a candidate who ousted him on Tuesday. So there's no honor among thieves. And I think, you see Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and so on. They're like comical Ali while, Baghdad's on fire. They're saying nothing to see here. It's an unmitigated disaster for them, but it's a good thing for Republicans because, for one thing, they can point to these fringe characters with their repellent policies that nobody in America wants, and differentiate themselves in the midterms and sort of paint the entire party as being a party of crazies. That's what Donald Trump's done very effectively. But the other thing to remember is not to get too terrified that communism is going to sweep the United States, because the three candidates, for instance, in New York, who are coming to Congress from the DSA, the Socialists, the Communists, they're not from New York. Letitia James quite right. Not one of them is from the community. And it's really a triumph of community organizing because the turnout is so dismal. Between the three of them, they got 3% of the vote of registered eligible Democrats in New York City. So, people just sat at home. And I would just urge everybody, whether you're a Republican or a moderate or a centrist or an independent, register as a Democrat in New York so that you get a say in the Democrat primaries, because once someone wins the primary, they've won the general.
Yeah, and it also looks like Black voters are rejecting the socialism. None of and that's the base of the Democratic Party, so they should probably have a word. I want to get to Speaker Johnson. This is what he had to say about these progressives winning. Watch.
We're going to maintain our status as a constitutional republic on our 250th anniversary? Or are we going to make a new choice and go down some road towards a communist utopia? What a split screen we're seeing. Right now, we're triumphantly hosting the World Cup games all around the country. And we're seeing people from different countries come and get a little taste of America, a little taste of freedom, of our culture and our society. And they appreciate it so much more than these socialists running for Congress.
Yeah, because they get it, Miranda. They witness socialism firsthand, and they understand the negative impact, right?
Absolutely. And Mike Johnson's very good. He's articulated the Republican case against the Democrat Party based on this influx of crazy communists. And he's quite right. The rest of the world loves what they see in America, the freedom that they don't have in their countries. I don't think Americans are fully aware of what's happened, even in the Anglosphere, in England, in Australia, in New Zealand, where the left has become ascendant and freedom has disappeared in many cases.
Yeah. 10 million people in the last administration didn't invade our borders for nothing. There was something that they were running to. We just wish they would have done it the legal way. Thanks so much, Miranda.
100%. Thanks, Lawrence.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube.
Amazing. This country is in peril. We need to push back. And let's listen into this.
You know what
commentary
makes
about
a
Mamdani.
3-hour editing sessions even better? Not having to close.
Why I fly KLM? I can easily connect through Amsterdam to loads of destinations around the world. With convenient connections.
Straight away in as former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Mr. Speaker, great to see you tonight. Man, they're panicking over there in the Democrat Party. They have a little excitement on the fringe there, and they're winning some races, no doubt. But where does this end up?
This should be more than just panicking, because you got to understand, the leaders of the Democratic Party, the so-called leaders, are Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They're from New York. To defeat a Democrat or any Republican incumbent in Congress is difficult. Mamdani just went 3-0. Hakeem is from the same place. They destroyed it. No longer are they the leader of the party. Mamdani and the Socialists now control the Democratic Party. There's no question about it. But
They're being honest though, right? They're finally being honest. I'm kind of glad they're being honest now. They're not pretending that, like Spanberger in Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a moderate. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, I'm a moderate. Oh, I was in the military, so listen to me like Plattner. It's all a game of pretend for those people. At least Bongani and the Chevalier is like, yeah, we're going to tear it all down. We're going to take what you have. We're going to give it to people who we think deserve it.
I love this Ingram angle because it says exactly what America needs to see. We have all these foreign visitors here with the World Cup. They love America, and what about it? They dislike what they're seeing with these socialists. They don't understand what they have been fed, the falsities about America. They come and see the patriotism, the people of how kind they are. Yes, that's the heart of America. That's what they love. That's what they want to join.
And I think that the left is summed up by the woman who stole the Knicks trash can, right? With the orange and blue trash can. She dumps it out on the street. Again, not caring. It's her city. Her city celebrates, doesn't care, dumps it out, steals it, takes something that's not hers, and then her whole position at JP Morgan was like some DEI nonsense position.
How come some foreign person come to America and love it greater than what these socialists do about this country? They just, I don't quite grasp what they're going for, but they're winning and they're the leaders of the Democratic Party.
Well, Democrats love to attack capitalism, of course, but and things get awkward very quick when they do. Watch this.
Where has socialism ever worked, Senator?
Is that another question or is that for the next interview?
That's definitely for you. I just want to know one place where socialism has been beneficial.
Well, when you have me come back on, we can talk about that.
Get your answer. Okay.
Joe Carter, who I love. Like, let me get some Chat GPT and I'll get back to you. Hey, they have to know it's not working. They have to know. Like, South America is turning economic.
They have woken up from it. The pain, the generations that have lost. Look, I've been to Venezuela twice since President Trump had made that change. People celebrate this. They love what is transforming them because they watch what they used to have, and now that the socialism took it all away.
Well, and when you think of how brazen these candidates are in their hatred of the American tradition, one of them saying she didn't have a napkin, so she used the flag to wipe her face
openly.
Yeah, but they're not even trying to hide it. So for someone like even a Cory Booker, who initially again was kind of a moderate from New Jersey, that's how he initially came into foreign state politics. Where does he go here? Does he just go hard anti-Semitic, hard left, hard socialist? Is that where your career takes you?
They have all moved that way out of fear. I mean, think of Hakeem Jeffrey. He's from New York. His background with his family is pretty much that. And they're chanting against him on TV. This is a challenge that they're going after everyone. And the interesting part is it's going to be you and me. It's going to be the entire nation. And they don't care. Bernie Sanders, you see what they're doing to California? If you make money, they're going to take it from you. They're going to take your land, take your money, and take your freedoms.
When you talk to regular Americans here, as I have this week, people visiting from all across the country and of course across the globe, people are so happy to be part of this celebration. I mean, I don't think I've met a person who wasn't happy to be here. And I heard it time and again. Oh, the city's so clean because people had been in New York. I've been a whole crew from Ohio who had ended up from Ohio. They went to New York. They did some stuff and then they came down here. But New York was so dirty and smelled like weed everywhere. And we come down here and this is fun. This is our nation's capital. When you and I were kids, even when we had our political differences, Mr. Speaker, we all put it aside and loved our country on 4th of July, did we not?
It didn't matter. Everyone together. And it's 250 years, the greatest experiment we've ever seen in the world. Look, we're not perfect, but we strive for a more perfect union because we allow the individual to succeed. And for people to have hatred, I get more patriotic watching these foreigners and watching the reels, how excited they get when they see the average American, and they go and they walk the streets and they have an American flag out. They love their country. They love what they see. They go to Buc-ee's. They love the whole idea of Buc-ee's itself.
You know something? I was just going to say Buc-ee's because it's one of my favorite places to stop. My daughter goes to Texas A&M. We always stop at Buc-ee's on the way. It's like paradise, and I love their barbecue. Their barbecue's the best. It is always great to see you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Smart founders know something most people miss. Get your domain name even if you're not ready to launch your business. With Wix, you can grab yours now and then get to work. Here's why it matters. Back in 2019,
Last night there was some earthquakes in Venezuela, I believe 2, and an earthquake in Japan. Al Jazeera is covering the earthquake in Venezuela, so let's listen in.
From Caracas as aftershocks happen throughout the day there following back-to-back earthquakes. Norris, we appreciate your reporting from on the ground there. Thank you for joining us. Let's bring in Sean Wilkin now, who's a professor of structural engineering at Newcastle University, and he joins us from Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK. Sean, thanks for being here. I wonder if you can help us understand a little bit about what kind of building codes we're looking at in Venezuela. Norris touched on it there, this idea that this country has been so heavily hit with sanctions. And the government oversight may have been lacking in the last little while. What do we know about the building codes there, and to what extent they've been followed?
Yeah, so the sort of major update and modernisation of the building codes there happened in 1998, which was a sort of a similar code to what they have in the US. And the difficulty, every country is different, so we're not exactly sure how well that code has been enforced, but we often find that for a number of reasons that you can get a brand new code which is very good, and it will be a good code in Venezuela, but that it hasn't actually been followed, and there's always a lot of reasons for that. It could be corruption, it could be the fact that they don't really do the proper inspections that they are supposed to do. They don't have or they don't have the systems in place to do the inspections that they should do. And also sometimes the building industry doesn't actually have the correct expertise to actually apply the code as it is written.
One of the other things that Norris just mentioned while she was talking to us, Sean, and I wonder if you heard it, is she was saying that some of the guidance from the government was if your building has structural damage, that you shouldn't go inside it. Obviously, we look at some of the buildings, like our viewers are seeing on their screen, and you can tell that people shouldn't be going back into that building, but some of them, it might not be that obvious. How do people keep themselves safe in that regard? How can they tell whether or not they should be in that building or not?
So if there is damage to the major structural elements, so this is beams and columns, and they shouldn't be going into the buildings. What we normally do immediately after an earthquake is we do a system of tagging where we, from outside, start off from the outside, and we just quickly look around to see, is there any obvious damage to the structure? And if there is, then we put a red tag and nobody should go into it. And then you do a level 2 one. So if there is, especially the columns, but also the beams, if there's damage to those or walls, then they shouldn't be going into them. The other one as well is there's lots of masonry, and masonry behaves particularly badly in earthquake and particularly badly in aftershock. So even if you've got a reinforced concrete building and that the masonry may not be doing anything structurally, then there's always the possibility that wall can fall in. So masonry is particularly vulnerable in earthquakes.
Sean, when you talk about at a country like Venezuela, a place that can be prone to earthquakes, although has not had one this significant in over 100 years, how does it make buildings more resilient going forward, and how big of a task is that?
So the way to do it, so the problem with earthquakes is that you get lots of little earthquakes, and then every now and again you get one of these really huge ones, and then the energy that these earthquakes release is just enormous. The way that we typically design buildings is we design buildings like we design cars, and that is we have fenders, bumper bars as for the small knocks that resist the crash without any damage. And then in a car we have a crumple zone for the high-speed accidents. We do the same in buildings. We build the equivalent of a crumple zone in a building, so that it absorbs the energy of the earthquake. The building becomes damaged and very often irreparable, but it keeps the people safe, just like the crumple zone in your car keeps the people safe. To achieve this, you need a good, knowledgeable construction industry that understands how to make what we call ductility, in other words, bending instead of snapping. And so going forward, it's about making sure, especially the connections where the beams and the columns meet, that these have got enough ductility that they don't snap, and then they can absorb that energy of the earthquake as it moves back and forward.
Let me just give you my perspective on this. All right, that's all nice and dandy about structural engineering. But Venezuela is super important for our energy because heavy crude comes from Venezuela or Canada. And we're having problems with Canada in terms of trade. And the reason why we felt confident in bombing Iran was because we had heavy crude coming from Venezuela to feed Pad 3, which is located in Texas and Louisiana to run our refineries. Now we can get heavy crude from Canada, and we do make some heavy crude or drill and pump out heavy crude, some heavy crude in the States. But Pad 3 needs heavy crude. It's designed for heavy crude. So all of a sudden you have this earthquake happening in Venezuela. Venezuela is important for us in the energy sector. We haven't solved the problem in Iran. We haven't killed the theocratic regime. We haven't destroyed the IRGC. We haven't sowed the seeds of constitutional republic or Iran. We're trying to do an off-ramp to save face with this peace agreement. It is helping the energy sector for sure, lowering prices, lowering energy costs. But we're just kicking the can down the road. And like I said, there's a curse coming. So this earthquake in Venezuela is a warning that the United States didn't do what they should have done. And they picked expediency over doing the right thing. So this is just a little bit of a hint of a curse. Now, another hint of a curse is the algae issue with the reflective pool. Yes, you can explain it away. It was poor laying of the sealant. The filtration system wasn't good enough and the algae grew, all this stuff. But the thing is that it happened when Trump decided not to finish the job in Iran correctly and take an expedient offering. So it's the changing of a reflective pool, or the changing of the water, that's an embarrassment. This is very similar to the turning the Nile into blood or into red. You have this issue with cows having this disease from the biting of certain flies in their gnats, with what's called a screw. So you have this eating of the flesh of these cows or the cattle. It sounds like kind of almost biblical a little bit. All right. So there are hints of the warning signs, these earthquakes, changing of the water, the cattle. Right? There are these little warning signs that are happening that, you know what? September 11th, 2026, we are Rosh Hashanah and the Sabbath coincide. You can't blow the shofar. You can't silence Satan or Satan. You can't, when you can't silence Satan, then there's a prosecution that takes place on a group of people, on the world, on a community. And this problem also happens a year later. So you have two consecutive times where Rosh Hashanah coincides with the Sabbath. We're moving into a danger zone. And at other times when this has happened, big events happen in the world that affect everybody. Beware. Something bad is coming if we don't correct course. Now it is the end of June. We still have July and August, part of the early part of September to get our act together. But the probability of that is very low. Something bad's going to happen. Take a look at the Democratic Socialist Party. We thought that our politics are safe and that everything that it's not going to affect the economy, our property rights will be protected, our Constitution will be protected, all this stuff. But you're starting to see this almost magical blossoming of the Democratic Socialist Party, taking over the Democratic Party. This is part of the curse. Now, what do they represent? They represent racism. They're anti-white. They're anti-male. They're anti-Semitic. They're anti-capitalist. That's what the Democratic Socialists of America are. Now, what's amazing is the Democrats should stop funding them and just say that you're a different party. You do not represent the party of the Democrats. Why they allow it to happen? Who knows? Who knows? It seems like some power play by Pelosi. But the point here is there's a curse coming. Independent of your politics. And what we thought was stable in terms of our water, in terms of our food supply, in terms of the ground, the earthquakes, in terms of finance, in terms of our constitutional freedoms, they're all on shaky ground. That's the big takeaway. Something bad is coming. Let's listen into, oh, before we do that, let me just plug some products. Please help support the work that I do. All these videos are for free. Get the supplements. These are supplements that I take every day to help slow down the aging process. And I explain how they work. And if you follow my advice, you are going to get healthy. You're not going to need a general physician as often. And when you get into your geriatric years, you're going to have more vitality. Resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression, helps to get rid of cells that are in senescence. Resveratrol soaks up free radicals and helps the health of your mitochondria so you have more energy. Resveratrol also helps the basal layer of your skin. So you stack it with C60 to get the max benefit with the basal layer. Myotrol helps with the gene expression to build muscle. It has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with that gene expression. In addition, myotrol helps with the health of your mitochondria, so you're going to have the energy to maintain muscle. Do some resistance training, about a 60-40 or 70-30 split, heavier on resistance training than cardio. Make sure you do back exercises, build back muscles, super important to improve your posture. By doing resistance training, you're going to improve your bone density. And when you have better back posture, you're improving also your lymphatic flow and your venous return flow. When you build muscle, you're also protecting your brain. How, Dr. Paul Cottrell? Does building muscle help with your brain? One, by building calf muscles, you're going to allow for better flow, better venous return flow, so your heart will be pumping better. In addition, the musculature that you have will also increase the myokines. And that concentration of myokine and the increased concentration of BDNF are neuroprotective. Your brain will be protected when you build more muscle. Now, by taking Myotrol regularly, you're going to be able to maintain and build that muscle. You don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you do need to do resistance training to build muscle to get healthy. So please take my advice, get the Myotrol. You can stack it with Gladiator Barley to improve building muscle. Omega-3 brings down systemic inflammation, reduces overclotting of your red blood cells, and omega-3 helps your lipid profile, helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. When you do that, you're reducing plaque formation. Cleanse, max 35 or max 14. There are different price points and different parts per million. But take a teaspoon a day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds and swallow it. What this will do is neutralize and improve the health of your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, maintaining the mucosal barrier and help the health of your epithelial cells. When you do that, you're improving your innate immune system. I've been doing this for over 6 years every day. You're not feeling well because of the cold season or the allergies, take a tablespoon of this amount and swish in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds or so, and then swallow. It'll help to neutralize. It's very important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great products that I offer and help support the channel and help support your health and wellness. It's a win-win situation. And to save some money, make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount 5.
Which is AirPods prices, but it did hint at a future hike for prices for those items. And so they might be coming at some point as well.
Could be happening maybe in September for here. Because sometimes they have their event in September.
They do.
Their event
They
in
do.
September. Okay. So and some of these prices are kind of significant. I was looking at, was it the Mac, one of the Macs up by $200?
That's right.
That's big. That's big. Okay, let's talk about trip.com. What's going on there?
Yeah, so that would be ticker TCOM. And their shares are falling today. The company reported adjusted earnings for the first quarter that missed analyst estimates. And the online travel agency also expects a slower second quarter revenue growth. I think this is especially interesting because it gives us a read on how consumers are acting in today's economic environment.
It's funny because we had a guest earlier from Allianz and they had a report out on travel. And they said it's still bullish on travel here, but they should talk to the folks at trip.com maybe. All right, Wendy's, the home of the Baconator. I'm a huge fan. What's going on at Wendy's?
Yeah, well, I love their spicy chicken sandwich, so that's why I chose Wendy's. And that would be ticker WEN. And their shares are climbing today after rallying 26% on Wednesday. And we do think that a meme stock crowd is behind the moves. Retail trades piled into Wendy's on Wednesday after there was a post on Reddit's Wall Street Bets page that urged its members to save Wendy's before it's too late. So Wendy's is indeed becoming a bit of a meme stock.
All right, very good. I'll still go there.
Do you know one of their most ordered menu items? Hot and crispy French fries.
I haven't tried them, but I'll give them a shot.
I like the spicy chicken. Maybe that'll work for you.
Good combo.
I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, very good. We got some good stuff there from Maria Claro-Cobo. She covers all the equity markets for Bloomberg News. We appreciate that. For folks around the country, the World Cup's occurring in many, many cities across North America. Here in New York City, it's kind of a tough thing here to get to because you can't park at the stadium. So I don't know how people get there, but they get there through mass transit and some other means.
And I think they're paying through the nose to do it, too.
Yes, exactly right. So Michelle Caskey joins us here. She's a reporter for Bloomberg News. What are we seeing in terms of commuter delays at when World Cup happens? What are we seeing?
Yeah, this is definitely a situation where, first, thanks for having me on. And it's definitely a situation where if you're a regular New Jersey commuter, you really need to do your homework before you head out the door. Is there a World Cup match going on today? If there is, what does that mean for service? Because they do restrict travel out from Penn Station back to New Jersey for 4 hours before a match. It's only serving World Cup hours. It's 4 hours. Sometimes they don't need to use that whole 4 hours, but many times they need that time to be able to get tens of thousands of people through, get them over to Secaucus, and then from Secaucus they get them to the stadium.
Has it been going okay thus far?
Knock on wood.
Okay.
Today there's a match. What is it? It's a 4 p.m. match, Ecuador versus Germany. This will be the 4th match at MetLife. The first 3 have gone okay. No major hiccups, no major meltdowns. And then the big one's going to be July 19th is the finals.
I mean, I've been riding New Jersey Transit every day for 40 years. It's a pain. I mean, it is an inconvenience. I just can't get over. I saw a tweet from New Jersey Transit, because that's the only way you get information, but it's a good social media. It works. We successfully transported 30,000 fans from MetLife Stadium back to 30,000 is nothing.
Right, on a
why
daily basis,
should
how
you
many
be down
people,
for 30,000?
but in a short period of time.
Yeah, but I mean, get on my train to, it's
packed. It's
anyway,
more people.
but again, has there been any pushback from riders like me, or do we just take it?
You guys are taking it.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I think, they're really, your choices are limited. I mean, some people are alternating their travel. Either they're working from home more, like on match days, just work from home, or they take the path. New Jersey Transit buses are still running, but again, you're going to hit traffic with that. And also, I think it also helps people know that this is temporary. There are 3 matches total.
That's it. Now, can I just say, I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm sure they thought about it, but what if there were like trains just meant to bring people to and from the matches that came on designated times, and people either signed up to be on a particular train or something, so that they wouldn't have to affect people like my friend Paul Sweeney?
It's you do need to have a special World Cup train ticket to get on New Jersey Transit to get to MetLife. And again, there's this designated window of time when you're supposed to get to Penn Station and catch your train. And then they just keep rolling out trains again to get over into New Jersey.
I was there the last match day. I left before they shut down, and Norway was playing. And so the Norwegian fans were all over the place singing songs and chanting. And I was like, oh boy.
Did you see the rowing?
Yes.
Did you see the rowing?
I saw that in Penn Station. But I walked from the PATH station on 6th Avenue and 34th Street over to Penn, which is 1 block. They have 34th Street between 6th and 7th shut down, and they have the gates so blind.
There's a lot of traffic going on because of the games. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Boomer Boost. This has 68 nutrients, has the minerals, the supplements, the vitamins that you need to take daily to help with cellular function, increase your cellular metabolism, increase your energy levels, help with brain function, help with your musculature and your cardiovascular health. Boomer Boost will help with your immune system and endocrine system, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals. You should be taking this every day. Super important. It's a month supply. Very powerful supplement. Gladiator barley or heirloom barley. Heirloom barley will help with detoxifying your body, bringing down inflammation, and soaking up free radicals. That's really important for your endocrine system and your immune system, but also your brain function, cardiovascular. And what you'll notice is that it'll also help with bringing down inflammation in the joint. Now, Gladiator barley. You get all the benefits of heirloom barley, but one other, it helps to build muscle. So you're building muscle, detoxifying your body, recovering faster after a workout, soaking up free radicals, bringing down inflammation, super important. Now you can stack the Boomer Boost with the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley for max benefit, and that will also help to control A1C levels. The best way to control your A1C levels are to do resistance training, take the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator barley. So I just gave you a recipe on how to mitigate diabetes. So please go to my store, get the great supplements that I offer, the Boomer Boost, the Gladiator barley, and the heirloom barley. They're great supplements that you should be taking daily to slow down the aging process. Not only are you slowing down the aging process, you're going to have more energy, better brain function, better cardiovascular health, better immune system and endocrine system. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So let's listen into CNN covering the Venezuela earthquake.
Of the moment the quake struck, terrifying families fleeing into the streets.
I'm told we're getting new video just in. I have not seen this yet of the moments that this powerful back-to-back series of earthquakes hit Venezuela. More than 160 people have been killed so far. That death toll is rising and rising quickly. 1,000 injured. We want to warn you, again, I haven't seen this yet, that this video might be disturbing. Watch. See there. I don't know where the video is from, but that's from Caracas, Guaria, where it struck much more powerfully. Okay, it's from a different place. But again, you can see the power, the suddenness, and the fear of everyone who was in that. I don't know if that was the first quake or the second one. Either way,
this quake was in Venezuela, and there was also a strong over 6. I think it was 6.5 in Japan. Now just imagine what happens to California, because the big one's coming. We just don't know when. But if you coincide it with all the potential curses that are starting to emerge, don't be surprised something bad happens to California. And it's going to be way bigger than the fires of Los Angeles or the Palisades.
It has been devastating.
The epicenters located along Venezuela's northern coastal region. The 7.2 and then 7.5 magnitude quakes struck less than a minute apart. The second one, the strongest to hit the country in more than a century. The damage, catastrophic, and it's widespread. Buildings collapsing, an untold number of people trapped in debris. A witness describes the scene.
Why are you still using bots for your meetings? How else am I going to remember what happened? Just use granola. Okay, what's granola? With granola, you get all the benefits of a note taker, but it never actually joins your call. So you could just jot down all of your notes and I'll add them into a recap of everything that happens in your meetings. Wait, are you serious? Yeah, let me show you. Yeah, but I was here when I managed to get dressed. He helped me, and all the walls were cracked. We managed to open the door however we could. There was a cloud of smoke that wouldn't let us see. And when we went downstairs, the scene was like a horror movie. We had to climb over the rubble and everything. The building superintendent with a baby and all the neighbors coming down. But from that building, I only saw that one family got out.
With us now, Nora Soto, a journalist and international correspondent on the ground in Caracas at this moment. Norris, if you can hear me, the connection is hard to get. We're lucky to have you. I'm going to keep you on as long as I can. Can you tell me what you are seeing this morning?
Well, this morning I was able to go out of the street. What we've seen is a lot of empty streets. I mean, nobody is going out to work. Many businesses are closed. But if you look at the zone where the impact was greater, bigger in Cottrell, you can see people camping outside on the squares, on the public squares, on the streets, because they were either afraid of returning home because of the damages of the structures, or they completely lost their home. So what you can see is a situation, a second situation for Venezuela. We were not prepared for something like this to happen.
Again, we're looking at pictures right now from Caracas of a building that's just been flattened there, and a machine trying to lift what looks like an entire story, a floor off of something underneath. We don't know if they're searching for people or not. Any communications, and this is Caracas we're seeing right now. Caracas is where you are. Any communication at all? Are you hearing anything from LaGuardia, which appears to be much closer to the epicenter and perhaps even harder hit?
What I've been hearing is from people, friends of mine, even abroad, we have family in Hawaii, and we're reaching out, asking for help. If they are asking for the journalists and for anybody really who has that social media account, looking for people because the connection and the internet in Hawaii is completely severed. People are not able to communicate, so we at this point don't know exactly how many people died, how many structures have been completely collapsed. And, what we know from little photos and videos circulating over social media is that the situation is 2 times worse than in Caracas.
Much, much worse in LaGuardia than it is in Caracas, only getting scant information back from there, although we have seen a few pictures with so many buildings damaged or destroyed. You, of course, were in Caracas when these dual quakes hit. Can you describe what it felt like?
Well, this is something that I think I've never felt something like this in my entire life. I felt like actually the ground was rolling, it was a huge roar, and then I started feeling my feet falling to the floor, a lot of people in the glasses, and you could actually hear how the building was starting to crack at the juncture, It was really traumatic. It was really shocking. This is something beyond words, beyond description. It's something that I wish nobody.
You could hear the buildings starting to crack. And again, we see these live pictures right now from Caracas of a building that did more than crack. It completely crumbled, and there appear to be some rescue efforts going on underway there.
We've reported that the second quake is the strongest to hit the country in more than a century, going back over 100 years. In your early assessment of some of the preliminary data, what is your assessment of these quakes that struck on Wednesday?
Well, the fact that they were the 2 right after each other is unusual. I mean, that has happened before, but it's not common that 2 of such similar magnitude or such large magnitude will occur right after each other. A 7.5 may not seem much larger than 7.2, but it's actually twice as large because that's the way the scale works. So it just means that shaking will have gone on for so much longer because you've had that first one starting the shaking, and then 40 seconds later a larger event which will have longer duration of shaking. So and the harmonics of those 2 earthquakes interacting with each other could potentially amplify some of those signals. So it's really an unusual and very dangerous sequence of events. So hopefully that's the end of them, but you can't rule out that larger events might not occur in the short term. So people really do need to be aware of them.
And that's very important to pay attention to. Rare, unusual events happening in such a short amount of time since the saving face and the off-ramping of getting out of Iran. Getting the off-ramp of getting out of Iran and not finishing the job. There's a curse coming. There was something that Trump was supposed to do that he failed to do, and something bad is coming. Don't be surprised that the good luck that Trump had for most of his life starts to be taken away. Just things start crumbling. Some problems start to arise. This is one data point to prove what I've been saying about the metaphysics of this last 2.5 year arc. It's only going to get worse.
For that potential occurrence.
From a scientific perspective, I wonder if you could just speak to how great a risk is there still to some of the emergency responders when it comes to any potential aftershocks? Again, it's been quite some time now.
So there were some aftershocks earlier today.
All earthquakes have aftershocks. All right. They also have actually a pre-shock before the big one, but there's aftershocks. And while they're trying to recover or rescue bodies, yeah, they're going to be at risk. But that's not the main point to think about. What about that whole plate and the stress that's happening? And how that may be amplified, and that there's going to be a major problem on the west coast of the United States.
And those have been closer to Caracas, actually. So the main event is about 100 miles to the west of Caracas, but these two aftershocks that we've seen in the sort of mid-4 range are closer to Caracas. And that's sort of still getting to the point where you can get some damage, particularly to already compromised structures. So recovery efforts are certainly going to be hampered if there are continuing aftershocks, which are quite likely in the short term.
Venezuela's main airport also suffering major damage. You can see it unfolding there. Video showing a part of the roof collapsing on people as they're fleeing to safety. CNN's Stefano Posaban is tracking all of this from Bogota, Colombia, where you felt the quake. Give us some sense of just how devastating this has been and how big this is, the difference between, for example, the first quake and then the follow-up, the 7.2 to the 7.5.
I needed 10 sequin cowboy hats for a bachelorette party. But what did I get? What the? But then everything was just resolved. Return label in my email. Order tracked. Thanks to nice AI agents.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it. Meet Base44, a complete AI creation platform.
Yeah, there's really been almost a storm of shakes, Sarah, hitting Venezuela, starting at 6 p.m. local time yesterday afternoon. Authorities, for example, saying that after the first two major quakes, the first one a 7.2, the second a 7.5 magnitude on the Richter scale. Well, after that, we've heard, we felt, and people in Caracas have been feeling quakes and shakes through the night, with up to 30 aftershocks reported by the authorities. One news that we learned today out of Caracas in the last hour or so is that we've spoken with representatives from Chevron, the major US oil company that has begun operating in Venezuela again after years out in the cold following Maduro's removal back in January. They told us that all of their employees, both foreigners, but mostly Venezuelans, have been accounted for. Some limited positive news out of the Venezuelan oil industry. This is important because the epicenter of these two quakes, the area of Moron, halfway between Caracas and Maracaibo, some 200 miles west of the Venezuelan capital. These were some of the largest and most crucial refineries of Venezuela are located. It's not a densely populated area, but it is an area that is crucial for the developing and the reconstruction of the country, because that is where the oil would go out, and we know how much of the Venezuelan economy depends on the oil. So we're keeping a close eye on the oil industry in Venezuela, and the good news out of Chevron is that all of their employees are being accounted for. So that is something that we're welcoming at this hour. At the same time, still want to point out that lots of the people that we spoke with in Caracas have decided to sleep and have spent the night out onto the streets, maybe getting together in squares or in cars, trying to stay out of the buildings because of these successive aftershocks. One person, for example, was speaking to our cameras late last night as they were preparing to spend the night rough onto the streets.
What I did was throw myself on the floor to call on God. The walls cracked, the kitchen collapsed, the living room is about to fall. One more movement and it will come down. Here I'm going to stay. Here in the street, I have nothing else. At that moment, I only ran out with my rosary, my phone, which I had on me, and my clothes.
With almost 200 dead already reported, this is already proving to be one of the deadliest catastrophes hitting Venezuela this century. Unfortunately, the death toll seems to be destined to keep growing and growing in the coming hours, Sarah.
Yeah, it's truly terrible. We're looking at live pictures just there.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver gel. You can get it in the tube form or the quick dispenser called Renew. Either one will work for you. Very high quality. It's dual purpose. You can use it as a daily skincare. You can put it on a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn, and it will help you. In addition, if you're getting allergies, lightly coat your nostrils, and it will help to neutralize the allergen. If you have the common cold, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your eyes, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils. They'll stay active for 5.5 hours. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver gel. It's dual purpose. You should have some at home. You never know when you need it. And get the C60. You can get an MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, or avocado oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. You can get the cheaper per ounce configuration to help save some money. It's a tongue twister here. And C60 is a very potent antioxidant. Take a teaspoon a day. It's going to soak up free radicals. It's going to help the cells and the tissues, your organ systems. It's going to help your immune system, your endocrine system, cardiovascular, and brain function. By soaking up free radicals, you're helping the mitochondria to have more energy, so you have more ATP within the cell to do cellular processes. At the vascular level, you're going to soak up free radicals and reduce the concentration of oxidized LDL. When that happens, you're reducing plaque formation. And for the neurons, you're helping the mitochondria in the neuron to be healthier, to produce the ATP that will allow you to produce the neurotransmitters, and that will improve your positive neuroplasticity. You'll be able to think properly, and you'll have better memory. And C60 will help with the immune system, the endocrine system, and the basal layer of your skin. I've been taking C60 for over 10 years every day, teaspoon a day every day. So please go to my store and get the C60 avocado oil version. You can also get it in MCT coconut oil or in extra virgin olive oil. But the key is to take it every day, teaspoon a day. And again, it is cheaper if you get the higher ounce configuration when you look at it from the point of view of price per ounce. And get the structural nanosilver toothpaste. This has no fluoride. It'll whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce inflammation, help the health of the gum line, and neutralize because it has structural nanosilver. To use it every day and improve your oral hygiene. And with good oral hygiene, you're helping your cardiovascular health and your valvular health. So please take my advice and use the best toothpaste that you can buy. Right here in my hand. Get a few tubes for your household. Use it every day, especially during the cold season because it neutralizes. It has structural nanosilver. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Okay, let's listen to no, let's listen to Al Jazeera here. Looks like something's happening in Lebanon.
This was the living room, 17-year-old Gina Wehby tells us. Her home in southern Lebanon was severely damaged in an Israeli airstrike in May.
Yeah, they're just doing documentaries about what's going on in Lebanon. Let's listen into Bloomberg.
Preach the gospel of diversification. So, we are still at Pivotal, have a high conviction when it comes to investing in the U.S. But again, as you start to think about diversification, again, I just mentioned earlier how well emerging markets are doing. And that's very related to that AI spend and that trend. But I think that you have to really think about your factor exposure and really make sure that you have a really well diversified portfolio. And I'm a big believer in people, in investors, especially new investors, really kind of thinking about this and doing their own research. But this might be a good time for people to talk to like a professional, because again, it's really you really want to make sure that your portfolio is diversified. Diversification goes far beyond just stocks and bonds and international.
Talk to me about how you are approaching the AI trade. Are they pure plays for you? How are you sort of getting exposure for your clients?
Yeah, so I think about this in kind of like three ways. So again, I love asset allocation and diversification. And so I think that there are these different phases of AI, right? And so I think that you have to own the creators, what I would call the creators, the builders, and the adapters. And so that first phase was the creators, right? Like the NVIDIAs, the Microsofts, Amazon, all of those, all the ones that we continue to hear about. Those are the companies that have built the foundation. But then there are the builders, right? Kind of building the infrastructure of AI, which is equally as important. So like for Broadcom, Vertus, Eaton, Taiwan Semi, those are important too, to get exposure to that. But then that third phase is the adopters, right? So companies that are really harnessing the power of AI to really improve like productivity and bottom line, and helping other companies to do that as well. So like Omnicell, which does this in the pharmaceutical space, ServiceNow is another one that people know about, and then CrowdStrike. So I think that you have to take a diversified approach to all of that. You have to own all three of those categories.
Tiffany, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Tiffany McGee, she is the CEO and CIO of Pivotal Advisors. Joining us live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, praising diversification, which is what we hear from a lot of the folks in the professional money management business. That certainly makes sense here. Just looking at the markets, the S&P is up 20 points, the Dow's up 480 points, and the Nasdaq's down 90. But what's funny is the Nasdaq 100 is up 140 points. So you don't typically see that kind of dispersion there. The dollar index remains very strong at the DXY 101 spot 30. This Independence Day, join Bloomberg this weekend for a special live show from the intrepid David Gura, Christina Ruffini, and Lisa Mateo. Will be celebrating America's 250th birthday all morning in the deck of the Intrepid, right on the Hudson River. Watch and listen live on
My meeting notes went from this
Bloomberg Radio and a Bloomberg Business app. Saturday, July 4th, starting at 7 a.m. Eastern. In the bond market here, pretty quiet here. 10-year Treasury yielding 4.38 in about a basis point here. Again, remember, we were at 450 just a couple of days ago. We're going to have more coming up. This is Bloomberg.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. Zeolite will help to bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. And this is a great way to detoxify your body. By binding to those heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals with zeolite, it'll allow you to urinate them out within about 6 to 8 hours. And detoxifying your body regularly is super important to improve homeostasis, help with your immune system, and your endocrine system, and your other organ systems. Super important. Take 3 small drops underneath your tongue, drink the filtered water, do that daily. If you want a heavier detox where you're only doing that heavier detox once or twice a year, what I recommend doing is taking 5 to 10 small drops underneath your tongue, drink the filtered water, do that daily until you use up the bottle, do that once or twice a year. But I recommend that you do the 3 drops underneath your tongue and drink the filtered water daily throughout the year as a maintenance. And that way you're being able to detoxify your body regularly. This is the type of zeolite that you can take every day. Some zeolite you can't. That zeolite you can. Collagen. Collagen will help to remodel your joints. It'll help to remodel the cartilage and the cushioning of the joint, block the pain, gatekeeper, NAV 1.7, reduce inflammation by blocking the enzyme Ep4, and stop the erosion of the joint by blocking MMP3 and MMP13. Collagen helps to remodel your joint from a sports injury or arthritis. So please take my advice, take the collagen every day, stack it with the collagen, do some exercises, light exercises, where you're opening up the joint up to the point of the pain, and go a little bit more, count to about 20 or 30 seconds, and release, let it rest, and do that 2 to 3 times a day. When you do that, you're going to notice that you're going to be opening up the joint with less pain. You're going to be able to articulate the joint more with less pain over time. So you have to do the exercise, take the collagen, and take the collagen. Now let's listen into Live Now about Trump-Iran deal is worse for Americans than the Obama deal. This is MS Now.
Official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve
Morning
Brightman.
Joe.
He's got charts looking at how much Iran stands to gain from Trump's deal. Steve, how much are we talking about?
Yeah, well, you guys kind of did the charts for me, but let me show you the numbers behind what you just said, because the point is exactly right. This deal is clearly worse for Americans than the Obama deal, and in other respects, certainly no better. But to Joe's point, so we've already taken sanctions off of Iranian oil during this negotiating period, not something Obama did. That is estimated to bring them $6 billion of extra oil revenue. In addition, we've committed during this period, before there's anything signed, to unfreeze $12 billion of Iranian assets, something that Obama never did. So $18 billion they get just for signing the MOU, so to speak. And then if you get a final deal, they have another $66 billion of frozen assets, and that's more than Obama. I'll show you that in a second. And and over the 2.3 years, which is equivalent to how long the JCPOA was in effect, they get another $66 billion of extra oil revenue. And then lastly, there's this $300 billion fund that Trump has been talking about. Nobody knows who's going to pay for it, whether the U.S. will be part of it, but it's potentially another big thing. So you can see here, in terms of the oil revenue, this is simply a breakdown of that. And it shows you the difference between, over the next couple of years, between what they would have gotten for their oil and what they will now get for their oil. Again, a total of another $78 billion or thereabouts.
So, Steve, to set up your next chart, let's first listen to the recent claim from President Trump about how much money he says the Obama administration gave to Tehran.
Obama flew a Boeing 757, a plane I know very well. They took the seats out and they loaded it up with $1.7 billion in cash from the banks in Maryland and Virginia and D.C. They emptied out the banks and they gave them 1.7 in green, and they gave them tens of billions of dollars, just kept giving them money, and it didn't work.
All right, Steve, let's fact check that. What can you tell us about how Trump's deal with Iran compares to that previous agreement under Obama?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that $1.7 billion because that's particularly interesting. But before we do that, so obviously Obama had a final deal. Trump is still dealing with an interim framework. Obama had broad support in the international community. The Trump, it's just the U.S. versus Iran. And then we get to this oil sanctions issue. Obama only lifted them after the agreement was signed and there was some verification of compliance beginning. Trump has already done part of it, as we said, has lifted the sanctions for now during the 60 period. Obama freed up no money up front. Trump is in the process right now giving them $12 billion. Ultimately, Obama unsanctioned $50 billion of assets. Trump, we're talking about $78 billion of assets. So here's this $1.7 billion that Trump loves to talk about. What that is money that Iran put on deposit before the 1979 revolution for some purchases that were never made, and it's been frozen since then. And that's all that is essentially giving them back money they gave us 47 years ago. And then you have this rebuild fund, which we don't know who's going to pay for it, but potentially $300 million. And then, of course, as David Ignatius can explain better, Obama had all of the inspections and the snapback, and Trump, they've been going back and forth, but there doesn't seem to be certainly any agreement on the Iranians' part to agree to what they did under Obama. So when you add it all up, you can see that Obama provide $117 billion in total relief once they sign the final JCPOA. And Trump is actually giving them a little bit more than that in both crude oil sales and in unfrozen assets, not to mention the $300 billion that's floating around out there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Steve, because the number is so shockingly high, you accidentally said 300 million the first time you talked about it, and so people were driving in their car. I'm sure now that they've heard it is 300 billion, they'll probably spill their coffee. But it really is remarkable. You have $1.7 billion versus about 500 billion at the end of the day. I mean, it's just absolutely astounding. Talk about your third chart. You mentioned that $300 billion, well, I call it's a reparations fund, actually. It's just like the Germans had to pay at Versailles, except the $300 billion that we are going to be guaranteeing the Iranians is more than what Kaiser Wilhelm II had to agree to at Versailles in 1919. And this is a key provision of the MOU. We keep saying no money for the fund's going to come from U.S. taxpayers, the American government.
Let's hear him say it.
I mean, well, we'll hear him say it, and of course, the Iranians have already said
That's what he told
it's not true. Go
at
ahead.
the G7 summit.
It's been reported that it includes.
Turns out the government tracks a lot of data, and it's scattered all over the place. Data on prices, jobs, benefits.
It's been reported that it includes a $300 billion Sparks fund funded by Gulf Allies.
People, you can invest if you want. I mean, what do I do? Say nobody's ever allowed to invest? No, we're not investing. We're not putting up 10 cents, and people can decide to do that, but that's up to them. I mean, do you want me to say nobody's ever allowed to invest in a country? We are not investing in it, and we do not have a fund.
Steve, you say U.S. taxpayers are going to be on the hook here. And of course, since the MOU has the United States guaranteeing this $300 billion, anybody that knows anything about treaties or knows anything about, well, basic contract law knows that if you guarantee the $300 billion, you're on the hook. Walk us through it.
Well, let's talk about the total costs of the war, because again, the differences between what Trump is saying and what's going to happen are phenomenal. So far, the Pentagon has put the cost of this war at only $29 billion. But yesterday, they asked for another $80 billion in defense money. So obviously, this is a ridiculous number. There are a bunch of private forecasts out there that go anywhere from $132 billion, but they go all the way up to $1 trillion for this war. And again, this doesn't even include necessarily the $300 billion with a B for that fund, but it includes all sorts of other costs like veterans benefits, interest on the extra debt that we're going to accumulate, rebuilding American facilities overseas that have been damaged in this war. So what has been talked about as a $29 billion war could end up being a $1 trillion war, which is very similar to what happened in Iraq. And then I want to just make one last point, which is in terms of collateral damage, so to speak, we unfroze and we allowed Russia to charge full market price for its oil during this period while the war was going on to get oil into the world economy. And the consequence of that is that the Russians got $22 billion more in oil revenue than they would have gotten had the cap on their oil price that we imposed on stayed in place. And so inadvertently, or as I said, as collateral damage, the Russians now have $22 billion more to fight Ukraine with.
David, when you see these numbers, I mean, up to potentially, according to Harvard, $1 trillion for the war, you see the polling showing that the war is unpopular, and yet the White House's calculation is that people are not going to really look at the details of all of the charts that Steve has produced for us this morning. All they're going to look at is the price of filling up their car when they pass by the petrol pump. Do you think Trump will pay a political price in the long run for what has been something of a fiasco for America?
I do. The polling is pretty clear that the country isn't comfortable with having gone to war in Iran, doesn't see the benefits. Trump, let's not forget, was elected as the candidate who was going to stop these wars in the Middle East, would pull back from these adventures. And I think it's really going to cost him at the polls in November. It's going to cost the Republicans for some time now. People simply don't believe that the benefits are real. We've talked about the $300 billion that might be part of this cost. We should remember that's on paper. I mean, in a sense, it'd be nice if there was a clear plan to actually spend money and have a plan for a different Iran. There isn't. I mean, it's a notional fund. Saudis have said they're not going to put money into it. The Emiratis, the same thing. But I think in terms of public perceptions, this is going to be seen as a war like Iraq, like Afghanistan, where we spent a lot and got a little.
Yeah, I mean, this data that Steve's put together is pretty comprehensive and thorough and convincing, but has he considered Trump's counter argument that it was a great war? Okay, I agree with David. I think this is problematic for Trump politically. And honestly, we're in chapter 1, right? I mean, this is a 60-day MOU. There's tons of negotiations that still to be done. The first 3 days have been interesting, to be honest with you, because we have declarations from the American side that are within 12 hours refuted by the Iranian side, everything from the Strait of Hormuz to the IAEA inspectors. I think, and you know, with stipulation that Americans don't always rarely vote on foreign policy, I do think that we're going to have another inflection point when a deal has to be announced. Because at that point, you can't really continue to, I mean, you're going to try, but you can't really continue to spin the specifics. Right now, Trump could say, well, this is just to get us to a point of conversation, or J.D. Vance could say that. But at some point, the Iranians will get the money. They'll do stuff with it that we probably don't like. We'll know if the Strait of Hormuz is being told or not. The oil tankers will have to pay it. And I think the American public will say, fully informed, like, was this worth it? And as of now, every polling data indicates that they don't believe it was worth it.
One that we showed, this one we showed, only 25% of Americans think it was worth it. I will say, for all of those who love this, Americans don't vote on foreign policy. I will just remind them, Joe Biden was over 50% in his presidency until the fiasco in Afghanistan, that fiasco of withdrawal. Then he dropped below 50%. Go back to 2004, Republicans win the White House. Karl Rove talks about a permanent majority. Iraq goes sideways. 2 years later, in 2006, Nancy Pelosi becomes the first woman to be Speaker of the House, and the Democrats are swept into power. So much for that permanent majority. Why did it go? Because of Iraq. Why did Joe Biden go below 50% for good? Because of Afghanistan. So to think that only 25% of the people support this war and think we won this war, and you have the numbers that Steve's showing that the MOU says, and we're going to give them up to $500 billion, the Iranians, that's just politically toxic.
All right. This is part of the curse that I'm talking about. It's part financial. He wasn't willing to go all the way and solve the issue. And the United States just kicked the can down the road. It's going to cost more to clean up the mess later. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the super strong relief. This will help to relieve pain for arthritis, bruises, pulled muscles, arthritis, and even tension headaches. It's a topical. You just rub it in the area of the pain, and within 90 seconds or so, the pain is drastically diminished or eliminated. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the super strong relief. It's a great product. That's the end of my broadcast. Thank you for listening. Please help support the work that I do by sharing the links and asking your social media to follow me and get the great products that I offer. Use discount 5, you get $5 off. It's all caps, discount, the number 5. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.